I want you to forget every zero-turn review you have ever watched. Forget the spec sheet comparisons, the sponsored breakdowns, the dealer walkthroughs. None of those people were spending their own money. The guy mowing 100 acres a week for paying clients, the one who has snapped belts, blown spindles, and watched multiple brands fail at the worst possible moment, does not choose his personal mower based on a YouTube ad. He chooses it because experience taught him things no spec sheet, dealer pitch, or sponsored review ever could. And the mower sitting in his own driveway, bought with money he actually earned for a property he actually cares about, is the most brutally honest review in this entire industry. So, forget the first page of Google. Forget the channels running a mower for 45 minutes and calling it a long-term test. We went deeper than that. And what we found is going to change the way you look at every zero-turn mower on the market. Let's get started. Every brand you have ever seen on a trailer, Exmark, Husqvarna, Ferris, Toro, every single one of them exists in a market that a man named Dane Scag helped build. He created the Bobcat brand. He launched Great Dane and sold it to John Deere. And in 1983, out of a machine shop in Mayville, Wisconsin, he built the company that still carries his name. When a landscaper who has spent 15 years running every brand on the market reaches into his own pocket, more often than not, that check says Scag. And the model he buys is the Tiger Cat II. Here is what that check is actually buying. The Tiger Cat II runs a heavy-duty, single-tube welded steel main frame, not a multi-section assembly. One continuous tube. That matters because every weld junction on a frame is a future fatigue point. Years of hard use find those joints. Scag eliminates them at the foundation. The Velocity Plus cutting deck is fabricated tri-plate steel, available in 48, 52, and 61 inches. The spindles are cast iron with tapered roller bearings, the same spindle architecture built to run thousands of hours without touching a bearing press. The PTO clutch is an Ogura GT 3.5 rated at 250 foot-pounds of holding strength with an adjustable air gap, so you extend its service life instead of replacing it. Ground speed hits 12 miles per hour. At that speed with a 52-inch deck, the Tiger Cat II covers more than 24 acres in a single day. That is not a brochure number. That is a machine solving a payroll problem. The 52-inch configuration with a Kawasaki FX series engine runs right around $9,500 at a Scag dealer. 61 inches climbs toward $11,000. You will not find it at a big box store. You find it at an independent dealer, which is exactly where professional landscapers shop because the person behind that counter has actually watched these machines fail. And more importantly, watched them not fail. Now here is the part dealers skip. Drive belt slipping off pulleys is the most reported issue owners bring in. PTO clutch failures happen, and when they do, Scag parts carry a premium. A clutch, a spindle, a belt. None of it is cheap. The base seat configuration sits too far back and too low for tall operators. 4 hours on rough terrain will remind you of both. And for nearly $10,000 on a mid-size residential ZTR, there are professionals who will flat out tell you that the orange paint adds $2,000 to that invoice. They are not entirely wrong. This machine has real flaws, and it will cost you real money to fix them. But here is what those same critics do when it is their own yard. They still buy the Tiger Cat II, because a landscaper does not choose based on comfort in a showroom. He chooses based on what he has watched survive full commercial seasons while everything around it started falling apart, belt by belt and spindle by spindle. Cast iron does not warp. Fabricated tri-plate steel does not flex under load the way stamped decks buckle. A frame with no unnecessary joints does not develop hairline cracks in year 4. These are not selling points. They are the reason a professional trusts this machine with the one property he actually cares about, his own. The Tiger Cat II is 40 years of Scag building for the operator who knows exactly what breaks, exactly when it breaks, and exactly what it costs when it does. And that tension, That knowledge is precisely why the overrated machine is the one they keep buying with their own hard-earned cash. If you want to know which ZTR earns that same trust on larger acreage with a suspension system that changes everything about how a long day feels, stay right here. That machine is coming up next. Most mower brands will sell you comfort as a feature. Ferris built an entire company around it, and they have 20 patents to prove it. Before Ferris introduced independent suspension to a ZTR mower, every operator on the market was absorbing every root, every rut, and every rough edge straight through their spine for 8 hours a day. Ferris looked at that problem and did what nobody else in the industry had the nerve to do. They called a NASCAR crew chief engineer named Todd Gordon and told him to redesign the riding mower the same way racing teams engineer a car that survives a track at 200 miles per hour. What came out of that conversation changed the industry forever, and the machine that brings that technology within reach of every serious landscaper is the IS700Z. Here is what the IS700Z actually is. It runs a Briggs & Stratton CX i27 horsepower engine with an 810 cubic centimeter displacement and a 5.5-gallon fuel tank. The deck comes in 52 or 60 inches, built around Ferris's ICD cutting system, a deck engineered to discharge grass evenly at full ground speed without clumping or doubling back. Ground speed tops out at 10 miles per hour forward. The transmission is dual commercial Hydro Gear ZT 3200 transaxles with 7-inch cooling fans, the same units you find on machines twice this price. Dry weight sits at 1,140 pounds. The front and rear suspension runs adjustable coilover shocks with a pivoting front axle and a rear swing arm, and Ferris covers every suspension component with a 5-year unlimited hour warranty. That last number is the one that stops people cold. Unlimited hours. A manufacturer so confident in the only thing that makes their mower different from every other machine on the market that they will cover it forever. Pricing on the IS700Z runs from $8,700 to $9,200 depending on deck size and configuration. Now here is where the honest conversation starts. Drive belts on the IS700Z slip and fail. It is the most reported complaint from owners, and it happens more often than a machine at this price point should allow. Spindle pulleys have been known to fail before 300 hours. Some owners have reported engine problems appearing well under 500 hours. And the 61-inch deck configuration is frankly too much load for the base engine choice, something Ferris should have addressed years ago. People on forums will tell you that you are paying a 10% premium for a seat upgrade and some springs. They are not entirely wrong to ask the question, but here is what a landscaper knows that a forum commenter does not. After 10 hours on rough terrain, the operator who is still comfortable makes better decisions. He cuts cleaner lines. He does not rush the turns. He does not start skipping passes because his lower back gave out at hour 7. The IS700Z suspension does not just absorb bumps, it protects productivity. It protects the body that has to show up and do it again tomorrow. Every single one of those landscapers who ran a rigid frame machine for 5 seasons and then climbed onto a Ferris for the first time will tell you the same thing. They felt the difference before they finished the first pass. That is why this machine, flaws and all, ends up parked in a professional's own driveway at the end of a long season. Not because it is perfect, because it is the only one that remembers a human being is sitting on it. If you want to see which machine those same landscapers choose when the yard is too big and the terrain too rough for anything in this price class to handle cleanly, stay right here. That machine is next. There's a town in southeastern Nebraska called Beatrice, population around 12,000. Nobody outside the green industry knows it exists, but every professional landscaper in America knows what gets built there. In 1982, Exmark manufacturing started in that town with a handful of employees in a building not much bigger than a garage. 13 years later, in April of 1995, they rolled out a machine called the Lazer Z, a mid-mount ZTR that the commercial turf world accepted almost immediately as the standard against which everything else would be measured. Toro bought Exmark in 1997, and instead of absorbing it into a product line and killing what made it different, they let it keep building out of Beatrice. Today, the Lazer Z holds the leading market share in its category in the United States. 30 years of that name on a trailer means something, and the entry point into that legacy, the machine a working landscaper buys for his own property when he does not want to think twice, is the Lazer Z E-Series. Here is exactly what the E-Series is. It runs your choice of a Kawasaki, Kohler, or Vanguard twin-cylinder commercial engine, starting at 23.5 horsepower on the 48-inch configuration and climbing to 31 horsepower on the 60-inch deck. The Ultra Cut Series 4 deck is formed and welded high-strength steel, available in 48, 52, and 60 inches. With a full floating design and maintenance-free sealed bearing spindles with splined blade drivers, meaning impact does not tighten the blade bolt and strip the threads the way it does on lesser machines. The deck and hydro belts come off without tools. There are 2 annual grease points on the entire machine. The fuel tank holds 9.5 gallons from a single fill point. Power runs through unitized hydro gear pump and motor units, delivering up to 11 miles per hour ground speed. Pricing on the 52-inch Kawasaki E-Series configuration runs right around $8,500 at an Exmark dealer, making it the most accessible machine in the entire Lazer Z family. Now, here is what the forums will tell you. The 2025 redesign removed the Parker hydraulic system in favor of Hydro Gear 4400 units, and professionals who ran the older configuration are not quiet about their opinions. Veteran operators on the ground are calling the pre-2025 Lazer Z E-Series the last version of the original machine, and some will tell you flat out that Exmark cut corners on the new build. Smaller tank, softer seat, different hydraulics. Electrical problems on the Lazer Z line are also real and documented. Starter relay failures, seat switch malfunctions causing no crank conditions, wiring harness issues showing up at 500 hours on machines that should run 2,000. But here is what a landscaper weighs against all of that. The Ultra Cut Series 4 deck does something on real turf that most decks cannot do. It produces a consistent, clean, professional-grade stripe at full ground speed without doubling back. The maintenance design is deliberate. 2 grease points, tool-free belt changes, sealed bearing spindles. That is a manufacturer who has listened to operators who do not have 30 minutes to spend on a machine before a job. And after 30 years, parts availability for the Lazer Z platform is not a question. Every dealer has them. The Lazer Z E-Series is what a landscaper buys when he wants the name that the entire commercial industry already decided was the benchmark, without spending what the top of the line costs. In 1963, a man named John Regier, who had no engineering degree and no formal training, looked at a riding mower and decided it was not good enough. He took parts from farm machinery and lawn mowers and built something the world had never seen, a machine that could spin on its own axis, circle a flagpole, reverse direction at a fence line without leaving a mark. He named it after a supersonic bomber he read about in Popular Mechanics. He called it the Hustler. Every single ZTR mower on every dealer floor in America today exists because of what John Regier built in Heston, Kansas in 1964. Now here is what makes that history matter for this video. A landscaper who knows that story, who knows which brand invented the machine he runs every single day of his working life, when he goes shopping for his own yard with his own paycheck, that history is sitting in the back of his mind. and at $6,599, the Raptor XDX makes a strong case for why he should let it stay there. Here is what that decision actually is. The Raptor XDX is Hustler's top residential ZTR, and the spec tells you exactly why the brand built it the way they did. It runs a Kawasaki FR691V twin-cylinder engine paired with Hydrogear ZT3100 commercial transmissions, not the budget units you find on machines in this price class, the same commercial-grade transaxles used on machines that run professional routes. The deck is 10-gauge fabricated steel, available in 48, 54, and 60 inches, with a 5-inch depth designed to push through thick grass at full ground speed without choking. Cast steel deck hangers, toolless removable pulley covers, foot-operated deck lift. The frame is a continuous one-piece 1.5-inch by 3-inch welded tubular steel structure. Hustler tests their frames for thousands of hours on grass and concrete tracks with inclines and embankments before the machine reaches a dealer floor. Ground speed tops out at 8 miles per hour. The warranty covers 3 years and 300 hours residential and 1 year 300 hours commercial, meaning Hustler will back this machine through a full professional season without voiding your paperwork. Now, here is what forums and owners will tell you if you ask the right questions. The hydro transmission mounting brackets on the Raptor line have a documented history of cracking and breaking. It is a known issue that Hustler has redesigned more than once, and owners still report it. At high hours, the frame has shown flecks that lighter operators never notice, but heavier operators feel immediately. Drive belt problems show up on the Raptor series more than they should at this price point. And since Stanley Black & Decker acquired Excel Industries in 2021, there are long-time Hustler owners openly questioning whether the build quality has held the same standard. Front wheel bearing failures at under 20 hours have been reported. These are real complaints from real owners, and they deserve to be said out loud. But here is the other side of that story, and this is the part a working landscaper already knows when he is standing in his own driveway, deciding what to park there. At $6,599, the Raptor XDX puts commercial hydro gear transmissions, a 10-gauge fabricated deck, and a continuous one-piece frame under you for less money than most competitors charge for stamped steel and budget hydraulics. A landscaper does not need his personal mower to be perfect. He needs it to be honest. He needs to know what he is getting, know what it will cost him when something goes wrong, and trust that the frame holding it together was built by the brand that invented the machine he has been driving professionally for years. If this video gave you something nobody else on this platform was willing to say out loud, then that is exactly the point of this channel. Every breakdown we do here is built around one question. What do the people who actually know these machines really choose? Not the sponsored answer, not the showroom answer, the real one. If that is the kind of content you want more of, hit subscribe right now because we are not slowing down. Drop your mower in the comments below. Tell me what you run on your own property and why, because some of the best information on this channel comes straight from the people watching it. And if you are still deciding which machine belongs in your own driveway, check out the full playlist. Every mower on this list gets its own deep dive, its own honest breakdown, and its own real verdict. You have put in the work all week. Your mower should too. We will see you in the next one.